Okay. So you are so your short-term goals I see here are HMAG and CVEL and reaching 235. So I guess you would be in the what we call the mid game at least in my commands, right?
Yeah.
And how's Kain? How's the game?
I mean, like a little bit. Like this is the dumpster fire, right? My character. 'Cause,
Okay.
I got back 2 months ago into the game, and I was like, let's actually try the game instead of getting to 200 and quitting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what I did, but I left myself the worst possible shit ever. So I have to that's why my character is a bit of a mess, and the rest of my accounts, because
Oh, you came back
I just
to
did random things.
Yeah, you kind of came back to like an unfinished project kind of thing,
Well, not even. It was literally like 200, and that was it.
like a naked 200.
Well, it had the burning gear still, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah, all the CRA expired and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of typical. People like coming back and be like, "Oh, my characters are naked. I can't kill anything." Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it's CRA. Yeah, no, I think it did it. Because I made this one with when Kain got released, so I think it was like the 200 burning.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do have so I did when I started at 1.5k Legion, and now it's 6k. So I've been playing quite a bit, I would say, but most of the characters were just burning. So those are I have just burning gear, but the rest I have nothing pretty much.
I see. Yeah.
So I also have no money. I had no money. I do have some now in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just mainly need some help with how to not waste too much mesos while trying to upgrade the gear that I have now, because I feel it's a bit all over the place, my gear.
Yeah, sure. There's probably some things where you can make some short fixes and get good gains for it, and then but like the main projects to invest in, so you don't over-invest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You got some short-term, medium-term goals. Yeah, we've got the Legion change coming right for from Korea soon, so that should make 8k Legion quite a bit more easy to do.
Yeah.
That's what we got. Lotus and Damien. Yeah, and then long-term goal kill bosses that are more endgame. So like everything, hard, lucid, hard will, and then beyond and Tenebris.
Yeah, that's the longer term. That's because I want to do the bosses. They are a lot of fun. Because I think last day of the reset, last week reset, I was able to clear all 3 doors, 3-door CRA. So it was half an hour before reset. I got my last door down. Because somebody told me about Bind. I didn't know about Erda Nova, so that was a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, especially need to confirm your I forget the skill, but like that purple one, the finisher, when you have all the debuffs on.
Yeah, so
if you have a bound target, that's significantly easier to hit.
Easier.
Yeah, and not die while you're doing it.
Yeah. So so I have some gear. I forgot to put Princess No in there. I got 12 pieces. So after next reset, I will be having the secondary as well.
Ah, okay, nice. Yeah.
And I have still one unique potential scroll from the pass.
Okay.
For that.
Nice.
Because I thought that would be I didn't one of the things I didn't want to do was upgrade my Frozen, because I knew I would get that soon, and it was pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's in an exact spot where you want it to be really good and unique, and not necessary to really get to legendary, so that you can save that money and then go commit that money on the piece that's gonna go all the way, which would be the Princess No one. Yeah. So that's the right call there, I would say. From a financially, from a more efficiency standpoint on the meso side. Okay. Yeah. So we can kind of go topic by topic, or if you have a list of questions, we can go by that. But I guess your main question is what to invest in, since you have a character that might be a little bit imbalanced in some ways, right?
Yeah, and besides that, I do have some questions about different aspects of gear, but I think that will come later as well when we discuss it, because some are a bit. One thing is transfer hammer. alchemy, like you can alchemy fuse gear or whatever, and then transposing. Like I don't know what everything is, and like because I thought transposing when people said it first, it was just transfer hammering, like a different word, but I don't think that's true anymore.
No, yeah, there's kind of similar systems, but they are they are distinctly different. But they do similar types of things, so they're usually mentioned in the same breath in ways of they're both systems with which you can move previous investments on an item that you're no longer going to use and use them, put them onto a new item so that you can maintain some of your value. So that does answer partly also your question in like, you know, how far do you upgrade an item and how, you know, how long do you keep an item. The fact that what you will do after that with the item is part of that, right? Because if you can transfer a bunch of the value into a new item, then you can push a little bit harder. And if you don't at all and you just fully replace it in 5 levels, then of course you don't push harder on the item, right? And that'll become more obvious as you understand those systems. But I guess we can. I guess that's as good a place as any to start. So what do you know about transfer hammers so far?
So transfer hammers, it gives the star force and the potential to the next tier item, and like the star force gets reduced by 1, and the maximum potential is epic, and it uses the same line. So like if you have 12 decks for legendary potential, for example, it goes to a 6 decks, right?
Yeah, correct. And then on the lower, on the like the unique lines, it would keep whatever could be on epic. So if you had say like a 966 unique or something, and you transfer it down, it'll go 666. Like it wouldn't go 633. It would keep on the 6. So it would actually be almost like a break even. Yeah. So when you say next tier, like it has to be within 10 levels for transfer hammer. So you could do like Abzo into Arcane, for example, which some people might, you know, say like that's the next tier of equips, but you can't transfer hammer that. It has to be within 10 levels of the item. Yeah. And of the base item level, like the flame or something that does something with the item equip level, that doesn't do anything, because otherwise you could cheat, right? You could make the arcane.
That would be really good.
Yeah, you could take the arcane down to 170 with a good flame, and then transfer hammer, and then redo the flame. You know, that would be cheating, and that would definitely be the meta if that was at all possible. Yeah, so but the main thing is, and the flame doesn't get taken over, right? So you can already have a good flame on the target before you transfer hammer. That won't be overwritten. And but yeah, the main purpose is to you know, get the transfer hammer over. But so the secondary purpose of that is that if the target item that you want to get to high star force is high risk for blowing up, or has a very low chance of getting a backup for, and the previous item 10 levels lower is an item that you can mass produce and just mass star force without safeguarding, which on average is cheaper even if you know, account for the amount of booms that you can get, then it makes more sense to get the previous item star forced and then transfer hammer them over rather than work on the final item from the beginning. And that way you can save money on getting the final result. So the main things we use this for is for Absolab gear and is for the superior Gollux gear once you get to that. Because, you know, math basically checks out that if you can use a, and this is where the events kind of come in, because we have 3 types of, well, I guess 4 now, 4 types of star forcing events. So the first one is the 1+1 event, which is, you know, ideal to get things up to 12 stars.
Wait, and was that the 1+1 just give you every time you upgrade like just 2 levels, 2 stars?
Yeah, 2 stars for every success, and it works up to being at 10 stars. So 10 to 12 will also happen, but if you're at 11, it'll just go 1 star at a time like a normal. But it's really nice for if you're working on a new character and the event is soon, you know, you could just get everything tapped up to 12 for half the cost basically. And it's useful later once you get to like 8k Legion and your board is really full and you want to get some star force on all of the characters, typically at least 120. That way you will get more raid power from those characters that are on the board, and that way you can generate more Legion coins. But that's typically something you only work on once you've reached 8k Legion, because leveling a character is way more efficient for raid power than working on their star force. Star force is more like, you know, kind of icing on the cake, kind of just like min-maxing
it's
within.
Just a free bonus.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a bonus, and at that point, it's going to be free. If you do it too early, it's going to take too many resources away from your main character and actually be detrimental. So it's something you can do at that point. But that's what that event is really good for. The other one is 30% off, which is just always 30% off of the base amount, not of the part where you safeguard. So that's mainly a good. Mathematically, it's really good. If you're going up until 15 stars is where it's advised to use it. Mathematically, even up to 21 and 22, it can technically be cheaper to do a 30% off event. The problem is just it's worse than a 5, 10, 15, 100% because you will be way more likely to blow up more items, which means that the average expected cost is also higher. It has to do with like standard deviation and stuff. I don't know how familiar you are with all of that, but you know.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so
statistics courses, so
yeah, exactly. So you're more likely to, like, if you get lucky, you'll save more money, but if you get unlucky, you'll waste way more. So it's more standard deviation is just wider, basically. So it's more, in general, more advised to. So unless you're like swimming in money, you typically wait for a 5, 10, 15, 100%, because then 15 to 16 is always 100% chance, and that's never a boom, so you don't have to safeguard it, and that means that on average you'll just get there. A lot cheaper and with fewer booms. For most situations is nice because you're usually not swimming in backups. And then the fourth one is the Shining Star Force event, which was recently. I don't know if you were around at that time already. If you were back.
Shiny? I don't think so. I think that was before Destiny update, right?
No, that was in the Destiny update. That was
in the Destiny.
3 weeks ago. That was basically 30% off and 5 and 15 at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So,
I was there.
Yeah. So I mean that's like the ideal one, but that seems to be coming around once every 6 months. So yeah, that's not when you. That's when you start planning for once you have stuff that's all like around 17, 19 stars, and you're trying to make like those big jumps into 20, 21, 22. And then you basically just save all the money you can to make sure that you get the max efficiency out of your messes. So yeah, so whenever those events come around, and you have some money, and you have then you start looking like, well, where do I have backups? You have no backups whatsoever. Then a lot of times it's not really worth to push too hard. Typically, you only go to 15 if an item can also go past 15, because 15 is very expensive for how little you get for it in terms of stats. But it's worth it if you can go past 15, because that's when you start getting weapon attack and magic attack. Per star, 15 plus. So you're basically paying like the admission fee getting up to 15. So stuff that only gets up to 15, that's really, really low priority to level at. So like, for example, your Royal Black Metal Shoulder, that's a perfect example. Like this item can be like 10, 11, maybe 12, forever. And it really doesn't make that much of a difference. The per 12 to 15 is very inefficient to spend the money on. You'd rather have that money spent on maybe even the gloves, even though these are not gloves that are going to stay with you forever. But imagine you have a 15-star glove. Next time a 5, 10, 15 comes around, you can get this one from 15 to 16 for 100% chance, right? And then transfer it over into the level 140 glove, tap that one to 16 again, tap it over into the 150 glove, tap it to 16 again, into the Abzo glove, and tap that one to 16 again. And that way you can always like stay ahead, and you can never fall below the 15 where it can start dropping again, right? Because 15 is a safe spot. If you fail at 15, so, it can go below.
Would it be wise to like keep that one, get it to 15, wait until the event, make sure that I have the other gloves as well then, and just like try to do that then, or?
Yeah, you're just going to start looking for. Well, you only need one backup, right? Because there's not going to be any chance to boom. So I would look for like a 140 glove is pretty easy to find, right? Like a Pencilier. You just make sure you hold on to one. And for the 150 glove, it's also pretty easy. You can buy one in the black market with the Magnus coins, or you can buy or you can get the one from Remaru dropped. And as long as you just have one, you'll be fine because there's no chance to boom. You might want to have more coins and stuff for Von Leon to have Von Leon backups, because it could boom from 13 to 15. And if you get backups, essentially what that means is that you don't have to worry about needing to safeguard, and that it's always cheaper to just find backups and send it, especially if you're only going up to 15, than to safeguard it. Just on average, that's always more expensive because it's double per attempt.
Yeah, I was already keeping 5 of that same glove too, because I was thinking of it already, like it would be maybe useful to transfer, but I wasn't sure because like it's like a few multiple steps, right? But it's not that difficult.
Yeah, and that means also that you can get it to Epic without any drawbacks.
Yeah.
So Abzo is where you want to look. So basically all the level 150s, and like the fewer jumps with Star Force that you have to make, the better. But if you already made the previous jumps, then you might as well take it with you. So there's also, I believe in the upcoming update, I think they're also releasing a, God, they're also releasing shoulders. They're releasing a level 100 cape, and I think a level 130 and a 150 shoulder. So once those are out, you could also use those to eventually transfer the Royal Black Metal shoulder up like all the way through as well. Which means that you can keep the epic potential, and well, the star will go down 1 on the first one, so you'll have to like, you know, get it back up to 15, and then, you know, during 5 to 15, then get it up to 16. So there's like the chance for 14 to drop all the way back down to 11. So I don't know if you want to 100% do that, or just say like, I'll just go straight up into like a level 150 shoulder and just start working on that. It'll probably depend on how many backups you have by the time that project becomes a thing.
Yeah. I got another question about then potential, right? When because like for example the shoulders like 6 stacks, but like is it worth to like use occult cubes and just try to get like maybe 2 lines, or is it a bit like 2 lines of 6 stacks or whatever, or is it like a bit too expensive for what it's worth and stuff like this?
So occult cubes, I think, are mainly to just get 3% on rares and to get 6% on epics early on. That's just what they're there for, on any character in your account. So you could say there's another character I want to work on, there's something I want to get to level 200 or something, then always roll a little bit with occults on there. But I would never use them specifically to roll for 9%. Like I did that for my Project CRA because I had like thousands and, you know, like a built out account, so it makes sense. Made more sense to do that for me than to go for unique to go for 9%. But so on rare I would aim for 3%, on epic I would aim for 6, on unique I would aim for 12, because especially on accessories, and otherwise I wouldn't go for unique. So if you don't really have the money to support that, I wouldn't try to tier up. And then on legendary you go at least for 21, so like a 12 and 9 line, or maybe a 13 and 10.
Yeah, okay.
Because otherwise it's not worth the legendary, but also to capitalize on the legendary basically, yeah, or on whatever line you're in, yeah. So the curved shoulder is fine, but like to put it back into context, so like the star forcing there, you want to make sure that you kind of have a plan on what you're going to do with the item, and like how long you're going to be holding on to it, and that will decide how far you're going to be upgrading it, right? So it's important to know like the transfer hammering concept and the transposing concept, which I can explain in a little bit, and that'll basically let you know what is a smart idea to push. So if you look at all of these individual items, like, okay, your weapon, it's one of the most important pieces of equipment in terms of dealing damage, right? Your potential is already really good, more than what most people have as potential on an item of this caliber, which means that the Star Force probably doesn't need to be as high, because you wouldn't want it to be too high because it's level 160, so it can't transfer into anything, so you can't maintain that value in any way, right? So this is an item that is simultaneously one of the most important ones for your basic damage, and at the same time also all of the value is going to be 100% lost once you switch out of it. So that's the two things that are fighting each other when you're upgrading this thing. So getting to like 11 or 12 stars is fine, because like I said, it's only worth going to 15 if you're going to go past 15. And if you're going to go past 15, that's a pretty big investment for something that's going to get replaced pretty soon once you get Fafnir, right? So you're not going to be holding on to that too long. So this one being 11 or 12 stars maybe, like wherever it is now, is totally fine. So that's good enough. The secondary, like we said, right, it's already really good for unique. To 3 useful lines for unique is already like a godsend. If it didn't even have the 6% attack line, probably will already still be really good. And the Princess No is coming, so this one is just staying exactly like it is as well. The emblem, again, also has 3 useful lines. IED is typically not what you want like very far into the game, but early on you most likely need it to just get enough IED to actually be able to hit the boss that you're trying to attack.
Yeah.
So
it's a really big part of my IED at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So again, early on, like this is great, right? It's usually only once you hit like a huge legion, and or you get IED familiars, and or you get like superior Gollux completed, that you can really roll out of all the IED in your WSE. Usually before you can start getting enough IED from all the other sources. So like your WSE, I would say at this point is like perfect. It's probably better than what most people's has any business being. And it's already like future-proof as well. Like you know that the Fafnir is coming, you know that the Princess No is coming. So that's all great. So we look at the CRA. You can go pretty hard on the flame because you're going to be getting a lot of backups. And when it blows up, you go into the trace, right? Are you familiar with tracing?
No.
So if you go past 12 and you didn't safeguard, or past 17 and you can't safeguard, if it blows up, it turns into a trace of the item, which I guess I can show you one.
Yeah.
Looks like a transparent version.
You need a copy of it, right, or something, and then like it just goes back to that item, but then instead of whatever star it was, it goes to 12.
Yeah, because 12 is the highest, right, without booming. So it'll look like this. So it'll preserve whatever the potential was, whatever the flame was. If it was transposed, and we'll get to that in a little bit, like those extra bonus stats will also get preserved onto it, but it'll become like an inactive version of the equipment. And then if you want to, you have to do this, right, to item enchant, and then you have to place an exact copy of the item, so it has to be a Twilight mark. Put that in here, and then you can transfer those stats onto it if you want to. And then you can just continue back on from 12. So this means that items that have a lot of backups, like CRA, you can just keep going and going and going, and your flame will be saved, your potential will be saved. So you can flame on the item, you can potential on the item. But it's a little bit contradictory there again, because that means people will be like, oh, so you can get it to legendary, right, and get good lines. The problem with CRA is that the unique lines are very bad. They have a lot of junk lines, which means that you rather keep it unique, which is a little bit contradictory because it'll only have one unique line and 2 epic lines, and epic lines are good. But when you get to legendary, the legendary line is good, but the unique lines are bad. So you have 2 shitty lines there. So it's really difficult to roll good potential. And if you do like some simulations with the potential in the people in chat, hello chat. When you do some simulations on like how much is it going to cost on average for potentialing versus for star forcing, for CRA specifically, it's very heavily in favor of star forcing. Because much quicker than any of the other items, you'll have a plethora of backups, so you can send really hard on Star Force with very low risk. And whereas in potential, you'll have a lot of chance of getting junk lines and actually spend a lot of money for fairly small gains in potential. So
yeah, I already noticed that.
Yeah,
I spent quite a bit on the cubes because I just didn't have a single dex line, so I was like, well,
yeah, just give me anything, and then like 30 cubes later, you're like still not a single text line. Oh my god, yeah.
The worst part was that I used like 3 black cubes and it went from epic to legendary. So it was like, okay,
yeah, it's kind of like
use the rest of my cubes.
Yeah, it's kind of like hidden. Well, and that's the other thing, right? Is that you want to keep rolling to be worthy of the tier up, but also every single cube is more expensive. So before you know it, 100 mil turns into 200 mil, turns into like a bill that's just gone. Whereas if you're rolling in epic or in unique, you need to roll a lot of lines and get very, very unlucky before a bill is gone and you haven't seen like 6 or 9%. So yeah, those are items where you would just work on the Star Force earlier. And if you can't work on the Star Force because you don't have backups, that means you need to work on getting other stuff done first, basically. So as long as that general order is kind of in your head, it'll make sense that it feels like a little bit railroaded, right? It's like, oh, there's no event I can't upgrade. That's kind of, yeah, that can be annoying. So people in the past who didn't like that would go start like meso farming and start like pushing a lot harder so they could just brute force through it, right? So they didn't have to wait for events and stuff. And that was like the way of solving that. I like the fact that those events are there that kind of keep you in check because it gives you time to just play the game in between, right? And then when an event comes around, then you can look like, okay, what can I upgrade? And you don't have to constantly be looking at, okay, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. Like in your brain, you'll kind of have like, this is the next project I'm going to be working on, but you're not constantly actively needing to push like every single time you make some money to spend it immediately. But you can just relax and let it pile up a little bit, because the beauty of that is then you have more options, and then you can see the opportunities more. And the further you go into the game, the more you get like RNG drops, right? And then some items you'll get very unlucky on and you just won't see them at all. And then other items you will get lucky early on and you will get them. And then an event comes around and then you're like, well, I can't really do much. I only have like 2 things that I can possibly do, so I'm going to invest in those 2 things. And then the next event comes around and then maybe the luck has turned a little bit and then you can work on the other thing that you had no backups for the previous time. And that way the game kind of shows you, and then everyone's upgrade path is a little bit different, but in general you're going in the same direction.
Yeah, but for example, let's say my CRA gear, would it be worth it to at least try to get it to 15, or like before an event, or just keep it here and then wait until the event is there?
So, yeah, so general trend, you want to go to 15 only when you know you're going to get past 15, and then initially that's up to 17, right? Because that's, that's pretty low risk for items that you're not going to safeguard, and it's 0 risk for the items you are going to safeguard. The problem is, though, that is very, that's still a lot of money. That's a big investment, and it makes more sense before that point to know for sure. Well, you wouldn't do that if you're not for sure that you're going to play the character for long term, right? And you are sure for Kain, like that's your character, that's a lot of fun for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Then that makes more sense, I think, before that point, before going even to 15 and before going to 17, because, again, like, going to 15 means you're already pretty heavily invested in it, but you're not getting the returns yet. There's other stuff that you can do to invest into where you can get your returns way faster, and that's going into drop and meso gear on your accessories.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just get those lines so you have like more money for the event, so you can actually afford all the upgrades on the gear.
Exactly, and it gives you time in between when you're making that money to get those backups first. And then you can see whenever an event comes around, which backups did I get, how much money do I have, and then you can plan what your projects are. It gives you just more options, and with more options, that means you can pick more efficient options, rather than having to brute force because it's like the only thing you can do. Because then you run into the mistake of, well, not a mistake, but what ends up happening is that you're like, well, damn, you know, I've played for 2-3 months, there's an event now, and I can't really upgrade anything, but I want to get stronger, and then people start making, like, suboptimal decisions, and then you end up, more often than not, like, ending up with less, like, with a downgrade maybe even, and then it feels even worse, you know? So you want to give yourself as many opportunities as possible, so that one of them will stand out and be like, oh, this one is like 0 risk loss, to give yourself more of an option to get, you know, pick the fruits of your labor, basically.
Yeah.
So the downside for what happens with most people is that when you're investing into the secondary, into the accessories and stuff, is that you're investing more into stat, which you have been doing quite a bit, which means you will feel it more if you move from where you are now into drop and meso gear, because you'll actually be losing some stat. But the main thing is that you want your damage, you want it to come from your weapon, secondary, and emblem, from your nodes, and from your arcane power. That's really, those 3 things is where you want all of your damage to come from. Now, I'm not too concerned for you for losing too much kill speed by moving into drop and meso stuff more, because you do have a much more solid legion than most people do in your level, which means that legion can take quite a bit of the impact, you know, of the lost stats. And as long as your nodes and your symbols keep up, then you should have no problem killing monsters around your level.
Yeah, about the nodes. Well, my character doesn't really have any nodes. I mean, it's a bit better, but I still have. I think like the highest I have is like my main core nodes, right? That are like, I'm looking. Let me check real quick. It's 26. So I'm still missing quite a bit, right? And that's with the 26 is with like the 10 bonus from the slotting in to win in a +5 slot. Is it worth it to, because I can still buy the experience now, just to like boost those up as fast as possible?
Before we get into the V Matrix, so we talked about Transfer Hammer. That's all clear now, right?
Yeah. That's.
You did mention Transposing and one other thing. What was that other thing?
Oh yeah. With alchemy, where you can fuse 2 things together.
Yeah. So fusion, essentially, you don't really want to worry about it. The thing with fusion is that you can have like, most of the people will use it for cups, or maybe if they have like a lot of CRA pieces, right? Basically, when you fuse them, you will get a new roll on your flame, so you can kind of see it as getting a free flame roll. But the thing is, you have to have your alchemy pretty high level for it to be a relevant roll. You have to have craftsman level, so that's like level 11 basically, like a whole level above 10, where you have to start making some crazy stuff to get the same quality as a powerful flame, which you can also just buy from the shop for like 8 mil. So that's already quite a lot of work. And if you want to get the value of an eternal flame, you have to get it to Meister, and then, you know, past level 10 it starts decaying, so you have to upkeep and keep making stuff. But then you could fuse together, and then you get the quality of an eternal flame. That could be pretty valuable, but it really, it probably won't come into play until quite a lot further into the game. the fusion part. The transposing is pretty similar to transfer hammer in essence that you transfer the stars and it goes -1. And that part is basically the same, but transposing is specifically in the commercial area. You've probably been there before, right?
Yeah.
So it's only into Sweetwater equipment and accessories. So it's always into 160. The level difference is a little bit bigger. I think the item has to be within 15 levels. So it can be like between level 145 and I believe 155. Like it can't be too close, but there are no items in that level range anyway. But like if if ever something would pop up around that level, like you can't do that one. And the item has to be untradeable, which is weird in Reboot because some items will say that they're untradeable, but actually not be untradeable, and then you can't transfer hammer, so you can't transpose. Sorry, so that's a little weird. But there's basically it only gets used for a few things, you know, for the meta. But there's a few really good reasons. So one is that the item is level 160, so it's higher potential tier, right? It's higher level, so you get more stats from Starforce, and because you because those items don't have flame advantage, but the items that we transpose into them do have flame advantage, that allows you to get a better flame on those pieces as well, rather than you know, have a really shitty one. Plus, usually those pieces of equipment don't really have a set bonus synergy anyway, so it's better to just have higher base stats, which the level 160 pieces do. And then lastly, those items can get backups more easily because you can just, you know, brute force your way and just make more dineros and then just buy it. But there's no pity system, quote unquote, like that for the pieces for the other pieces that could inhabit that same equip slot. So for all of those reasons, we want to transpose. Oh yeah, and you get bonus stats for transposing as well. So when you transpose, the sweet spot is to transpose at 16 stars. And then Starforce, you know, higher up afterwards. That gives you the highest amount of total stats on the transposed item eventually. That's just how that system works. But it gives you some of those bonus stats that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the spell tracing.
Yeah, okay. And you mentioned like...
Yeah, it's mostly
has,
Dominator.
Like, flame advantage, right?
Yeah.
But what does that mean? Because I know like flames, but like flame advantage is something... They get better flames, right? But like, how do you know what is it exactly?
Yeah, so I go over this in the flaming video. Basically, there's a few telltale signs. Flame advantage items will always get 4 lines of flame stats. That doesn't mean that you will see 4 lines on the item, but it will mean that the numbers that you see are bigger because they might be stacking. So some items do not have flame advantage, and they will get between 1 and 4 lines. So a very good example of this is, well, like, for example, the shoulder cannot get flames. That's very obvious, right? You could just see no flame stats. The Nova Charm boots here, for example, those are not flame advantage. Why? Because you can see there's only 1 line being changed here. So that's a type of equipment that just doesn't have flame advantage. And it's not like it's not like an item can just have it or not have it. It depends on which item it is. So if it's like a Nova boot, it never has flame advantage. It's just not a flame advantaged item. In the past, we would call them like KMS flames because it was like items that were not existent in KMS. Like a lot of that stuff wouldn't have flame advantage or something. But it's just like a category. So it's mostly, so you can mostly tell by the number of stats, and you can also tell by the amount and how big the stat is. But that goes into more, in the flame video, I go more into more detail on that. But yeah, so once you know like CRA, that's flame advantage. You can look big numbers, lots of lines, right? And like always, that's flame advantage. And Rage Zakum Cape, also flame advantage. You can see 4 lines, big numbers. The Sweetwater weapon, for example, you can see not flame advantage, right? Only 2 lines, just dex and weapon attack. And the attack is also pretty low in number. I don't think you can even roll an 18 on a flame advantage item. Even the lowest possible outcome is higher than this. So after a while, you'll just learn to identify just by looking at the item. But yeah, like look at your Black Beam Mark, for example, like 55 dex and 6 all stat. If this item was not flame advantage, then this flame would... No, you could even get this flame. You can't get 6% all stat. It only goes up to 5, for example. So you can immediately tell. But there's a few rules of thumb, you know, like almost all of the boss accessory pieces are flame advantage. The only exception I can think of right now is the Horntail pendants are not. I think pretty much everything else is. Oh, and the Stone of Eternal Life from Hilla, I think isn't, but it's such a low level that, it doesn't even matter if it was or it wasn't.
Yeah, you get the cup immediately afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And the cup does, right? You can immediately see when you get a cup. You see the stats on there. They're way better. Although, I don't think you have a cup, or...
Oh, did I not put it in there?
Don't worry, everyone always forgets one. Oh, I forgot it too, in the check.
Oh, no, but yeah, I have one, like, of 48 dex, 44 strength, and 5% all stats.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so you can tell the difference with the items around the same level, and you can see very, very disparate outcomes of the flames. So there is a list where you can just check if an item has flame advantage or not, but once you know per type of item whether it does or not, you just kind of keep memory of that. And most of the items that we end up wanting to get early on are because they have flame advantage, so you can... like a good set bonus and a good flame advantage means that you don't have to work on Star Force as much, and you don't have to work on the potential as much, so you get a lot of free stats with that. And then the higher you go, the more you look at how much can I upgrade this item to compensate for not having those things. So it's like, oh, superior Gollux, all of the Gollux stuff, all of the ranks, all does not have flame advantage. But why do we use it? Because the set bonus is so amazing, right? The 4 set bonus, 30 boss, 30 IED, that just compensates for all of that. But actually, if you get into the end game, people start moving away from that again, because if you have enough pitch boss items, because pitch boss items, very high level, high flame score, and very good set bonus, actually all of that together can overcompensate for the Gollux set. But this is like, level 285 people who are trying to do that when they like 22 star, like at least 5 pitch boss items or something, But so that's how strong that stuff has to be to overcompensate like the regular superior Gollux stuff. So that's why it's so,
sought after.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so necessary to have those pieces. And they're pretty much the gatekeeper between, getting people into into Lucid and Will, because of that extra ID and that boss damage, and then redoing your weapon secondary and emblem, and getting more mobility in your familiars and that kind of stuff. So transposing, that I was talking about, just to finish that off, that's usually used for Dominators and for Papulatus marks, and then for Sweetwater Kataras if you're dual blade, which you're not. But that's basically the only thing where we transpose. There might be other options and things in the future that are possible, but those things are not. They're not meta for a reason that they're just not an upgrade. Doesn't make much sense to go for that. So that does mean that the future of the Dominator Pendant is probably getting to 16 at some point, but transposing is really just something you worry about after you get the drop of Mesogear done, after you get all of the other stuff all the way up to 15, then up to 17, probably full Abzo, probably full Superior Gollux, and all of that stuff up to Legendary, and up to 2-line stat, and up to 17 stars, because that's when basically a lot of the boss accessory set will be disappearing, because it'll be getting replaced with the superior gear, and that's when you will start replacing the last pieces that are left, like maybe the Black Beam Mark, but maybe the Black Beam Mark will stay as a damage piece because it already has a really nice flame, right? And if you get more backups, that means that you won't have to get like the Monocle, for example, and you probably won't get a Papulatus Mark yet because it's a very rare drop. But that's when the Tattoo and maybe the transposed transposed pendant will start coming in, and they will fill up those pieces of those boss accessory set pieces that at that point they will have a very low set bonus, and because of their low Star Force they will get overpowered by that higher Star Force gear. So that's really only when you need to start worrying about transposing.
Yeah, okay.
So it's for later. Oh yeah, and you mentioned the 2 lines of 6% dex on occult cubes. That's very rare, right? The last line only has 1% chance of being a 6% line, and then within that only has a small percentage of being the line that you want. So that's a very lucky thing. That's definitely not something you can realistically reproduce with occult cubes. Yeah, rolling 12%. I think I use about 12,000 occult cubes on my account on like all my characters, rolling everything to 9. And I probably have about 10 pieces that are 12%, I think, with the cold cubes. Out of all of those rolls. Yeah, so it's not... And I have one 18%, actually. But that's... the chance of that is like a 1 in a million or something. It's not... it's not realistically... Yeah, not advisable for something to chase. So you got 6%, move on to the next thing, and then... Because especially in the beginning, equips do switch around a little bit faster, so don't stick to it too long. Okay, cool. Yes, and then the V-Matrix. So VMatrix is let's do that. Yes. So what were you talking about? Yeah, the boost nodes. Yes. And then you got the bind recently. Okay, what's your understanding with the VMatrix so far? What's your plan?
So my understanding is that it's worth more to boost like the skill nodes than like the try nodes than like an actual skill node, because you get like only 2% or whatever from
the
them.
boost nodes, yeah, because more final damage and it's quote unquote permanent uptime, and it's used in both mobbing and embossing, so it's generally more value. Yeah.
I don't understand anything of the special ones. I have no clue if they are good, bad, or when you would use one.
Most of them are garbage. They'll trigger like once in a while, and the qualities or the what's the word I'm looking for? But like the qualifications for them to trigger are hugely convoluted and just very unworkable. So most of them, like 95% of them, is probably other shit. There's like 1 or 2 that can be very good in bossing, but you typically won't use those until you're doing like hard lucid, hard will, and everyone's like trying to min-max and get that clear done. Then you have like fatal strikes, I think, fatal strikes, and there's another skill. God, that not archers, because you were an archer, but that hurricane skill classes would use. That gives like a bunch of crit. And then because of Vicious Shot Archer, right, then you could turn that into critical damage temporarily. And then it's like slightly better than Fatal Strikes. But Fatal Strikes is like the one. Fatal Strikes or there's a healing one. Oh, what's the name again? Oh wait, I think I have one that's expired actually. Yeah, Auto Recovery. Auto Recovery 2. Those are like the ones, really, once you're doing like hard lucid, maybe the ones you're doing like hard will specifically, and then the bosses beyond that, so that's quite far from now. But that one is like a full heal every 30 seconds, so that's quite nice, especially on bosses that have heal locked. Yeah. But that's for bossing. For mobbing, it's basically that experience one that you have that's expired. That's probably the only one that's really used character building. And that's just for like a little bit extra, and that just triggers every once in a while when you get hit a bunch of times. So that's one way to get a bit more EXP. But that's mostly used probably past level, I don't know, probably past level 235, past level 240 or something, when the individual value of a node slot when you're mobbing is pretty low, or gets pretty low because of, you have all your boost nodes in there, your vital skill nodes are all in there. And then you can start min-maxing on how much experience you get per kill rather than trying to get the kills, right? First, you want to make sure that you can kill all the monsters, and then once you have that unlock, then you want to optimize how much experience comes from all the kills. Same thing with your hyperstats, right? You're not going to level up EXP in the hyperstat or EXP bonus in the Legion grid immediately, because if you can't kill anything yet, then you can get more experience per kill, but it's not efficient. First, you want to get the kill speed up, then the EXP per kill. So that comes later as well. Special node. There are some other niche uses for special nodes, but not for Kain or anything. So other than that, you don't have to worry about. So most of them you can just, whenever you get them, just right-click and extract them and just get the points. Or you can let them expire and then right-click them now. Now you actually keep them. In the past they would disappear and then you would lose all the node shards from it. But yeah, specials are, they're pretty niche like that. So mostly level up the boost nodes. That's why you put the boost nodes in leveled up slots, right? And you have a few skills that you really only use for bossing, and a few that you only use for mobbing. No, you have skills you use for everything, and then a few that you only use for bossing, I believe, right? That's Kain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and eventually you do want a lot of slots.
Some of them are also nice for like just an instant like full map clear.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the Thanos Descent, use them mainly with bossing, but sometimes with farming it because then I can get a drink in.
Yeah, sure, yeah, true. No, I'm talking specifically about the boost nodes now. So the boost nodes are the gray ones, right? When you boost the lower level skills, yeah.
The one in the bottom, that's pretty much only for bossing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have a good try node for the other skills that you can use, but it's not too important. But, like the main ones, I have like the triple tri node, like best tri node for like my 3 passives.
Yeah.
Like the 2 passives and the attack.
2 passives and the attack, yeah. Yeah, because there's one... Yeah, what is this? Phantom Blade, Chain Sickle, and then whatever fill. Yeah. Also, there's 2 options. 3 trios, triple boost, 2 skills, use 5 total nodes, boost Phantom Blade only once. Oh, that's a possibility. Yeah, I guess it depends on how far you think you're getting. I guess there's a 5... Some people do a 5 boost node setup, and some people do a 6 boost node setup. Because the 6th one is really there only to level Phantom Blade 1 time. And then you're just like double boosting whatever, right? And the higher you go, eventually that last boost node loses quite a bit of value because only a 1/3 of that boost node is being used. And depending on how far you take the character, you might want to replace that with a skill node instead, you know?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a personal preference. But it seems that, yeah, you want these 4. These are pretty important for everything, right?
Yeah, so like the trio number 1, I want to level up, but I should just get all the XP nodes that I can buy from the event still, just then throw them in there, right? That would be best to level those up as fast as possible, right?
If you could really get a fuck ton of coins, probably be okay to do that. In general, EXP nodes are pretty inefficient. Like, they're really expensive for the amount that they give. They give like the same EXP as 3 nodes, but they cost 1,000, so it's... Yeah, I mean, if you're like, if you're drowning in points, you can go for it, but I wouldn't try to aim for it too much.
Because what would be something else that I could buy from the shop? Because I bought the legendary event ring one, and I got like that's where I got the meso drop from on the reveal, so that was pretty lucky. But besides that, I don't think I can get the 17 one. I think that's like too short. Like the 17 Star Force one.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the extra Encore, right? Are you doing that?
Yeah, I'm doing that on my main as well. I'm at the moment at 2.7, so I might be able to get it.
Yeah, it's 1k, 2k, 3k, 3.5k. Yeah, you might be able to get it. Yeah, I think you'll be able to get it. If you do, if you don't miss any more days, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Do I have like something I could use it on? Or should I just do it on CRA then? Like to... But there's only 10 days.
So ideally, you want to use it on things that you would either safeguard or that you have like no backups for, right? So honestly, so since the project right now is to work more on the accessories, right? Drop in Mesogear. You can also get the Meister rings to try to get the Reboot Awake ring to legendary and to reroll with that. Use your Melody coins for that. That'd probably be better. Because like if you get a 17-star piece, one item going from 12 to 17 is not going to make a substantial difference in your damage output, right? So it's not going to do that thing where you get more, where you kill the monsters faster. But one extra line of Meso or drop now is going to make a pretty substantial difference in how much money you make when you're killing monsters. And then that will start generating the income that allows you to get to more 17s later. So it's a little bit of a detour, but it'll be the investment that gets you to the finish line faster.
Yeah, okay.
Other stuff, yeah, probably flames. Like, I don't know how close you are. Well, once you get the Fafnir weapon, you want to invest into that. You want to get a nice flame on that, because that one has flame advantage, right? Unlike this Sweetwater one, so you can actually realistically get something useful on there. So things like Eternal Flames for that, and yeah, maybe for some other pieces that have flame advantage, maybe like the pants, I guess, because they're like a little bit lower than the other pieces you have. And then once you get closer to Abzo stuff, yeah, flames in general are good. And you can always throw flames at the Dominator Pendant, right? Eventually, when you want to transpose, you probably want to get around a flame score of like around 105. So that's a pretty high bar, because once you transpose, you can't reflame it, right? If you would get a non-flame advantage outcome, so you would never be able to reach the same level of flame.
So yeah, so it's like a pretty important thing to get a really good flame on it before you transpose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the big parts of the value, yeah. So yeah, probably the Eternal Flames is probably the next thing I would look into, yeah. From the shop. Yeah, 17-star scroll is probably too expensive at this point. And you want to see if you can get the heart as well, right? Before the end of the...
I mean from the one you buy with Mesos, right? Like the 2 bill?
Yeah, very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be easily doable. I'm at like 1.6 now, so 1.6 and a half, so it should easily be doable before the end defense. And I had like another question about IED, because I understand the basic.
Can I go back to the V matrix just for a second?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just to make sure that like the topic isn't so Vicious Shot is nice. It's really only for bossing though, right? So the further you go with a lot of the things in the game, the further you will do kind of like a separation of what you do when you're mobbing and what you do when you're bossing. It's a little bit more tedious, but by min-maxing those setups more, you will be more valuable in both situations. So this will come back once we get into like the Legion board and stuff. But also like with your hyperstats, do you also have 2 different setups there?
I was planning to do that. I'm a bit lazy with that.
Yeah, you got probably one shitty setup and then the one bossing that you have now, right?
Yeah, the one that I have now, and then like some shitty things where
where you just level as you go, and then it kind of gets all fucked up. Yeah, no, that's normal. Don't worry. So with the V matrix, if I look at this setup now, I would say like this is specifically. On the one hand, I would say like this is a bossing setup. But on the other hand, you wouldn't expect the holy symbol to be there immediately, like in a leveled up slot in a bossing setup, when you're kind of still trying to min-max for damage to kill the bosses faster. So if you have this as your setup and you want to make sure that you can kill bosses faster, or as fast as possible, you have most of the skills in there that make sense. Your door skill is you probably want to replace the door skill with decent speed infusion, to make sure that you can hit the higher attack speed. One of the things, like the door skill is nice in case you die, but you will die less if you have more attack speed, because then you can get out of the way of attacks faster. You can respond quicker to things. So that'll just prevent even needing it. The other thing is you probably want to move your bind into the leveled up slot where Holy Symbol is, so that you can get a lower cooldown on the bind, so we can have an easier time synergizing with the setup for your burst. Because you have 90-second and 3-minute stuff, so you want it to be close to the 3-minute when you can do the really big burst by leveling up the bind a little bit. And it'll, level up as you get nodes, but a leveled up node slot is very useful for that. The Holy Symbol itself is something that you can put in later near the end of the boss fight to just get more drop rate. Or, if you don't have the slots for it, maybe put the extra boost node in instead of the Holy Symbol, just to get a little bit more damage out of those bossing skills to help you out.
Yeah, in the next update, they were gonna change some stuff with like the chest right after a boss, so then you have enough time to switch it in.
Yeah, it's not for all the bosses in the game though, so most of the ones that you're doing now, it's still gonna stay the same. It's mostly for like Lotus and Damien and everything above that.
Okay, well, so the way I'm going then.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time you get there, they'll be they'll be done, and then you can freely switch Holy Symbol, switch drop rate gear that you'll have by then. Then you'll be able to switch into that freely. That's what I do. What I've moved for now. And then don't forget that you don't have your own sharp eyes, right? So you do want to get decent sharp eyes as well.
Yeah, I got like the node yesterday when I was grinding with the totem.
Yeah, because that crit, right, synergizing with the Vicious Shot plus critical damage all the time is of course really nice. But yeah, that door skill with the big damage, but a super long cooldown, right? That one comes into play a little bit later typically.
Yeah, well, it was only useful for my first Queen clear, I believe. Just before the weekly reset, because if I didn't have that one, I would have died.
I see. Yeah. Oh yeah, you had one extra life, just enough to clutch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you get more experience with the bosses, not only your movement, right, and being able to move a little bit faster with the booster is going to help. Are you using green pots as well from Monster Park?
Yeah, I'm using the pots and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, as you get more experience, then just like the iframe from Thanatos Descent, you'll use that more strategically, and your regular iframe that you have, right, the dragon skill, you'll start using that more. more smartly, because in the beginning you don't want to use it too much, because then you don't have it when you really need it. But the problem is when you're just starting out, you don't know when you really need it. It's really hard to determine like when is it like a 95% chance of dying and when is it like a 5% chance of dying, because everything just feels like it's going to kill you at any moment. But as you get more experience, you'll learn to hold it more and use it more in the important things, and you don't have like whole boss fights where you never really used it but you still died out, or boss fights where you use it all the time and then you still die out because you use it at the wrong times. You'll get a feel for that better, and then you won't have to use the door as much, and it's more, for the really hard boss fights where you just need to prevent a death, and when you have the node slots where the individual value of the slots is not as high, so that you have the ability to throw that in. Yeah. Okay, you were asking that. Does that make sense for V-Matrix?
Yeah, this is like all clear now.
Okay. You were asking about... What were you asking about?
IED.
IED, yes.
I fully understand the basic concept, because I've heard it multiple times on stream, of course. Because it's like, I believe, the classic for every coaching session. It's like, it's not a coaching session without IED being named in it.
At least once, yeah.
But because like I understand, like I got like decent IED for my characters and stuff like that. And for example, I have like 40% IED on my
emblem.
Emblem. So like I can't really remove that at the moment, because that will like be
you don't want to
the biggest chunk. But for example, in boss fights, I also have my familiars, and I've been lucky enough, like after opening quite a bit while leveling my legion, to get 2 familiars with IED, 50% IED on them. So, like, is it like, should I just like try to remove something else, like somewhere else, like if I can scrape up some IEDs? Because if you go way over it, it's like you lose value, right?
Yeah.
But at what point would you say like where you would be able to remove some to win on, for example, bossing damage or some other stuff?
I think,
how much?
Yeah, I mean, until you have the Superior Gollux set coming in, I don't think you can ever really have too much IED.
Yeah, okay. So like until then, it's like you just, even if you have too much for it, like just accept it and go on.
Yeah, like, so if you had, let's say, your weapon, your secondary, and your emblem all had like 2 lines of IED each on them, I would say, yeah, you probably want to be rerolling something. But you probably already would, because then you have no attack and no stat, so you would start getting a little bit into trouble just regular mobbing, right? But yeah, like with my bossing mules and stuff like that, I would roll like 1 line IED, 1 line attack, or 1 line IED, 1 line boss on the WSE. And then that's just a solid foundation. And even if visually you end up with like 95 or something, you'd rather have 95 there than have 85 there.
Yeah, okay. So it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah.
Until you have like the Superior Gollux, where you're gonna go for the real min-maxing of the exact values that you want.
Yeah, you'll have all of the link skills, so the more functional and more visual ID there. You'll get the Superior Gollux, that'll help a lot. You will be getting, the familiars are already there, but the main thing is like the Legion block, because I guess we can get into kind of what you do for Legion. Do you have different presets for the Legion grid as well?
Yeah, so I mean, 2 of them right now, but I had one where like I had a bit less crit damage and a bit more IED, and one where I had some crit damage with a boss damage, but then fully crit rate on all of them, and then I have one with full crit rate and then bonus XP for like the lower characters, of course.
Okay. All right. So general things with the Legion grid and with the setup. If you're going to be, so I guess there's like mobbing and bossing on the main, and then there's just mobbing on side characters, right? In general, just like 3 major things. For mobbing on your main, the priority is definitely first crit to get to 100%. Once you have that, as much as you need to be able to kill the monsters, right? If that's nothing, then you can go fully in utility. If that's not nothing, then do those things first and then go into the utility of bonus EXP, right? Once you get to 6k, you're kind of in the weird spot where you have a lot of space to fill things, but you can't fill that much yet because the characters aren't too big, right? There's a little bit of an annoying space to be in, like all this potential, but you can't really fill it. So for you in your situation when you're bossing, do you know how much IED you're at with like your familiars out when you're going to bossing? Are you like around 90%?
Hang on, I can check real quick. I can summon them.
15, 1.5.
Depot,
225. Like 89?
Summon. Oh wait, at the moment. But I gotta like move my skills as well, because I don't have Lumi now. I think.
Oh yeah, thank God you can move those a little bit more, and it's not like one click and then.
This is the bossing one, so I am now at 91.
91. Okay, yeah. So that's solidly in the percentages where you want to be at, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can't move away too much, because then for like C-Vel and everything above, you're gonna start feeling quite a bit of difference there. But anyone,
yeah, I was planning on leveling a blaster, so I get some more IED from that as well. Plus, then I can finish up the 8 seconds link skill invincibility for the resistance.
Yeah, resistance. Yeah. So
I
that's
think those will help me, right? With
yeah.
HMech and
for sure, yeah. Everything CRA and above, resistance link skill is very useful for sure, especially HMech. Yeah, so you can just get back to the boss without dying before you even get there.
Don't start about it.
Yeah. So with that setup, how much do you have in crit rate? And then is it like crit damage full and mostly IED, or is that some in boss?
I have 120 crit rate at the moment, and 75, 76. I mean crit damage.
And for your Legion grid with that setup you just talked about, what does it look like?
It's like fully like 40-40 crit and 40-40 Legion crit.
So crit rate and crit damage full?
Yeah.
So in that setup for bossing, it will almost be more efficient to move that crit rate into the ignore defense instead, because that'll give you like a lower final damage penalty. And it's a big enough chunk of IED to be worth it. Plus the extra crit of going over the 100% is only worth it during Vicious Shot, and your Vicious Shot I think is not high enough level yet for it to be very impactful on your burst.
Oh yeah, okay.
So you'd rather have the IED throughout the entire fight, and that'll bring your base damage up quite a bit more.
Yeah, okay. So just like the 20% is a bit overkill. The 20%.
Yeah. That's more like if you're going to 8k Legion and you have like way bigger pieces and your critical damage is full, ID is full, and boss damage is full, then you just dump everything into crit rate to like min-max in your on your Vicious Shot on your burst. And by that time, Vicious Shot will be maxed, and then the conversion of the critical rate is higher as well.
Yeah, right.
And let's say that you had different potential in your WSE and you had like an extra line of ID instead, then I would still stick those 20 at a critical rate, but I wouldn't put them in ID, I would put them in boss damage instead. Yeah,
that's why I have like the second setup with boss damage instead of IED, just in case I would be like way higher, because like at some point it just doesn't become worth it to invest in the IED, of course.
Yeah, but that point is very high up. Don't underestimate how far that is.
Oh, really? I thought like at like if I was like a 93, 94, and like the basic things that I'm killing now with 85-ish.
Yeah, but if you're at 91 now, even a 30% line doesn't get you to 94, right?
Yeah. Good.
So because of the reduced efficiency, even though that number seems like it's really close, you need a lot of IED to get there. Like if you hear someone say like I have 97 or 98 IED, initially you might think like, oh, that's just like 1 or 2 lines extra when you have 90s. Like no, that's probably like 6 lines of 30% on top of 90% already, right? Because every single time it's like the first one is 3%, and the second one is 2.1, and then you go down to 95, then you're going down to like point. Yeah, it goes down really quickly. To get those last percentages is very, very difficult. So even though it seems in numbers that it's really close, it's it's pretty tricky. And then when you talk about the and then when you're mobbing with your main character, again, like the critical rate just up to 100%, right? Because then Vicious Shot for mobbing doesn't really come into play at all.
Okay.
Then you can go into bonus EXP, right? But don't underestimate when you are mobbing. It's probably more efficient. I would have to double check your stats. But when you're mobbing, there's been a kind of a shift in the Legion grid that it's probably more efficient to have Legion in normal monster damage rather than in critical damage. Or more like balanced out between the two.
Yeah.
Again, this is mostly with Legions of 6k and up, of course, because you lose a little bit of, or you lose quite a bit of value, like going through the middle. So you have a little bit more bleed over there. But the normal monster damage is not to be underestimated when it comes to just regular training. Because normal monster damage is just all the monsters that are not boss damage, that are not boss monsters. So don't underestimate the priority there. But again, enough crit to hit crit, and then enough damage to kill, which will be a combination of critical damage and normal monster damage, and then as much utility as you need. For some people, the buff duration might be part of the damage part, right? Like with Infinity with mages. But for most other classes, it's going to be just bonus experience to get more EXP from the monsters. But don't overestimate the bonus EXP, because it's a 0.25% per grid, right? If you fill that entire bonus EXP with 40 blocks in it, that's 10%. That's the same as like having a 0 Legion piece of level 200. That's also 10% by itself.
Yeah.
So don't, like, it's very cool to min-max on later on, but don't move into it too quickly if it takes away any of your kill potential. If you're not, like, killing as fast as you want to, just throw it in critical damage and normal monster damage instead and just kill faster there. And the same advice would go towards your mobbing setup for your other characters. Definitely get enough crit to get to 100% crit, right? But again, don't go into the bonus EXP too quickly. You probably can, because you have 6k Legion. Link skills are stronger, a lot more member bonuses, so they're probably strong enough. But for like people who are in lower Legion, don't go to bonus EXP too quickly. Go to critical damage and into normal monster damage first to make sure that your character can kill quickly and level quickly like that. And then if you're like 7.5k, 8k, whatever Legion, then you can also throw into bonus EXP to min-max within that.
Yeah, alright. Because like with the normal damage, right? With this one, would it be worth to like then for mobbing or just like kind of cut half from the crit rate? Because like again, like I'm 20% over, so I just can cut half of it, and then try to get that in normal damage with a bit of crit damage like removed there as well. Or is the crit damage still like really worth it if you're like really high above it, like really high it?
So you're talking about specifically for mobbing for your main now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So crit damage. Crit damage is really something you need to min-max on, of course, when you're bossing. But then with Vicious Shot, eventually as an archer, you will start seeing some diminishing returns because of critical damage being additive and it actually getting quite a lot once your Vicious Shot is maxed. But for normal monster damage, you're basically, what you're looking at is your base damage is 100%, and then your damage percent that you see in your stat window is added up to that, so then you're at 150, and then your normal monster damage and your hyper stats is added up to that. So let's say that you can get level 10 is, I believe, is that 40% at level 10? I think. So then you'd be at 190, so you can add, if you can add another 40% of 190 to 230, that'd be 40% on 190, that's almost 1/5, so that would be like 20% final damage, basically. And then when it comes to critical damage, your base critical damage is between 30 and 50% extra, so about 40%. So you can add 40% to whatever you're seeing there. So without the Legion grid, you'd be at 56 plus 40, so you'd be at 96 base. So 96 plus the 20% is also around 1/5, but it's a little bit higher. So so in your situation, 20% critical damage would be better than the 40% from the block of boss damage, but they're pretty close, right? It's 40 out of 190, and it's 20 out of 96. So they're actually really close. So that means that they're roughly equivalent value, and you can split, unlike with IED, because they're both additive. Right, with IED, it gets clustered together as a multiplicative source, so there you don't want to split up if you don't have to. And that's why the Legion is so good, because if you get 40 block in IED, and you get the 30 from the Superior Gollux, like those two together are really, really solid. Throw in some familiars with IED and you're set.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be my priority in building the grid. And you have more room to build now, and as you get more level 200s, you'll start filling up a lot more. So hopefully that'll kind of clear up what to prioritize.
Yeah, I'm currently still working. Like some of the some characters I have like the 130, 128, so I just gotta bring them up. So I can that's really easy +1 on the grid.
Yeah.
Because it's just 10 levels or whatever. And after that, I'm like working on some characters to 200 for some more.
Yeah. And you can have 2 more characters as well for the next update, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about it already.
There'll be an easy extra 300 levels, 2 more 150s.
Yeah.
Or 140s, an extra 280, yeah.
Yeah, that's still quite a bit. Like, I've got another question about the Legion then. Like, for example, well, I'm playing a Dex character, right?
Yep.
Is it worth to put in some Dex character, like some Dex characters, like whatever, right? But how much worth is some like a 20 Dex, for example, for my A Bowmaster, and then I lose one square to put in the board? Is that worth it, or?
Eventually, all of the valuable characters will get in there. As you're working on your Legion, you'll get to, what is it, 36 characters or something? Let me double check on my because I'm one over now with 8.8. Yeah, 36. Eventually, you get the 36 characters. So the general priority, I think, should be first put the biggest pieces in there. And then second of all, put the characters in there with relevant member bonuses for you. And then if you still have, if you're still not full, then at that point, the last priority is just put in whatever has the highest Legion raid power in there, right? So you get more Legion coins, basically. Yeah. That's like the general priority. So I would put the biggest pieces in first, and then right after that, I would put the stats that matter to you. But the general stats that matter to you and the priority in which they matter, I would say it depends on like my links command, and you just start from the left side, and then you just slam those in, and then as you could see, like eventually you get to your main stat and you get to Dex, but there's quite a lot of other stuff that I think is more valuable. Mainly because the member bonus does not get like multiplied by percentage stat, right? It's just a flat amount, so that's why it's pretty low on the list.
But so like you would say still.
Bigger piece over member bonus.
Piece, it's better than the 2-piece 20 Dex.
Yeah, it's mathematically it's probably pretty close, but eventually you're going to get to the setup where all of them are going to be the same size, and then it'll just overtake it.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yep. Yeah, because they've leveled up to like a S tier as well. It gets three sizes, like one extra size, and then it's like way better because that's
Yep, and then it's member bonus plus grid bonus. Yeah.
Okay, that's unclear for me all.
I guess we can look at your backups a little bit, because we talked about transfer hammer, right, and what to do next with the pieces.
Yeah.
So with that information, what would you do to your inventory now?
So about that, if it's only about Gollux right now, I see the Gollux things. About that. Because is it worth to get solid gear, or is that just too little compared to?
Yeah, so these things could. So a lot of times the base stats of items are just shit, and it never really matters what piece, what the base stats are. Usually, what matters is how far can it be upgraded, and what does it synergize with, right? Those are the important questions. Are there set bonuses? What are the alternatives for the equip slot that the item could go into? And how far can it be upgraded? Typically, things that can only go up to 15 or something, they're pretty much always temporary unless there are no alternatives. Like for a heart, for example, right? Like you wouldn't keep a 15-star heart if there was anything that would go over 15, because extra Star Force, right? It can go over 15, so it's higher level. It can get extra attack. So that's like, you'll never do that. But if the highest is 15, okay, you end up with something that can only go up to 15. The thing with Gollux is that you could use the lower level stuff, and you could Star Force it and then transfer hammer it over. But what are the alternatives? The alternative is boss accessory pieces. You've already invested in them. They have flame advantage. None of the Gollux stuff do, so that's a huge downside for the Gollux stuff. And it's the Gollux stuff is relatively low level, and the set bonus really doesn't start until you get into reinforced stuff. So reinforced stuff is the first Gollux stuff where you could really start considering using it, because it has that 4 set bonus that's almost at the point where the superior stuff is. I would only keep cracked and solid Gollux stuff if it's epic, just so I could transfer hammer it over into reinforced, and then I could transfer hammer that into superior, so that I can get free epic potential basically. Then I would use it. But all the other solid, you can always just disassemble it. Yeah, it's at best it's going to be what I call a sideways upgrade, where you technically get a little bit stronger, but the amount of money you would have to invest to do so is not worth that little bit of investment. It's better to just take a step back for a little bit, let that possible sideways upgrade pass you by, and then take a bigger jump into the next one that's more a linear upgrade, and then go harder on that and get more efficiency out of that upgrade instead. So for you, that would be basically, like, it's perfectly fine to have like 19-star CRA, 2-line unique, full boss accessory set with drop and mezzo, 17-star Abzo gear, and then get your full superior set, and then be like, okay, boom, boss accessory set immediately to the side. We have our level 140 pieces that we, Star Force previously during 30% off, and then during 5, 10, 15, right? That's at 16. And you will have like the pink bean belt, and you'll have reinforced earrings, and you'll have Kana treasure rings or Meister rings, and you'll have maybe a Dominator pendant, probably not a spare Dominator pendant at that time, because those are too rare. And then you get those superior pieces to 17, bam, that moves in. Then the Sweetwater pieces that you've been working on come in, boom, and then those items specifically for boss damage, and then those are the ones that you just didn't destroy, probably Lucid with at that point, like normal Lucid, and maybe normal Will. That kind of bosses will start going down at that point.
Yeah.
So the future for the superior is bleak. Unless they're epic, they can have some some effect. You do have a Horntail pendant I see that's epic, so you could basically use that as a transfer hammer up as well if you want to, into a 130 into a solid, and then that one into like a Dominator, for example, if you ever find one. That's basically 100% epic potential scroll, right? Just sitting in your equip inventory, hiding there. Yeah, so reinforced earrings you definitely want to keep, right? Because those you want to be able to mass transfer hammer into a superior earring eventually. So you don't have to safeguard that one, and you don't have to, right? You don't have to buy too many extras there, because that's going to be super expensive. And then the belts you use to transfer hammer into the superior belt, etc.
Good question. Like, can every piece of gear of Gollux drop, or do you have to buy some? Because you get the coins, of course. Or like, if you don't get one, you can buy it. But everything drop? Because I haven't seen
easy and normal. Yeah, so easy, normal, hard, hell, right? That's the 4 levels of difficulty, and that's also the 4 levels of drops. So that's cracked, solid, reinforced, superior, and then everything at that rank of that difficulty can drop, but only for the lowest 2. So normal can drop all of the solid and cracked stuff, and easy can drop all of the cracked stuff. But once you get to hard Gollux, it can only drop the belt and the, I don't know why I'm blanking so hard, and the earring, sorry. So the ring and the pendant you have to buy with coins. And that's the main reason why we kind of skip Reinforced at this point, because if you buy the whole set for Reinforced with coins, you're basically just slowing down being able to afford your Superior set. And you want to get to the Superior set as soon as possible. The only option, I think, and why I said like Reinforced is the first set bonus where you really start thinking about maybe getting it, is because when you're doing like bossing mules, for example. Because doing the whole Superior set thing, yeah, it's really good, but it's like mostly it's 2 months of work, and for a bossing mule, you want to start, capitalizing quickly and making more, like cutthroat decisions, right? You don't want to, you don't need to future-proof as much. You just want to be good now and then stay in the pocket where you are and then do well there. So Reinforced is really good there because you can get those drops way faster and you can get the coins way faster and then make the upgrade and start cashing in. But for a main character, you want to go all the way to Superior, so... yeah, you need about, 1,400 coins, right? 700 for both of the pieces. And usually you get that around the time that you also get the 2 drops, that you get a belt and an earring. But that's about a 2-month process of clearing.
So, a question, and to check if I understand it correctly, the transfer hammer. So I have like the 130 earrings, right, from Horntail. I have them at 17 stars, so that's pretty decent. Can I transfer those to the reinforced Gollux earrings, up them to 17 in one of those 5, 10, 15 events, and then transfer hammer those to like the superior ones if I get them?
Yes, you could do that. Typically, what you would do is do like that's something you could do. But here's the question. So let's say you get the earrings as a drop super quickly while you're still in the process of making a drop in Mesogear, then that is 100% what I would do. But what is more likely is that you are going to be needing these earrings as part of your drop in Mesogear before you get the drop. So what will happen is that these things will be legendary. And then you won't want to transfer hammer them over because you'll lose the legendary. So instead what will happen is these will go to legendary, be drop or Mesogear. You'll save up on reinforced gear. Reinforced earrings, and then during 30% off, you'll just try to send one of those reinforced to 15, sit on that, wait for 5, 10, 15, tap it to 16. If you don't have the superior earring, that's okay. If you do have the superior earring, then transfer into the superior, tap the superior to 16, and then safeguard the last star up to 17. And then you have a drop in Meso earring, and you have a superior 17 that you can then upgrade for damage.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So
the timing can make the difference there, but most likely the second situation is going to happen.
Yeah, okay. So coming back before the whole thing that you said, like the question about Gollux, you said what I would do with my inventory, right? I think like pretty much all is gonna be gone then, because like none of them is really.
A lot of it. Some of the stuff is useful. Yeah. So the
gloves are handy for like if I wanna.
The glove, if you want to send to 15 while just having backups, yeah. Once it's 15, you can get rid of the extras. And you want to make sure you have at least one level 140 glove and one 150 glove, and then you're set. All you need is a 5 and 15 event and an Abzo glove, and then you're all the way up through to 17. And it also means that if you have like an E-pot or something, you can definitely throw it on your gloves and try to go for at least 6% there, and that upgrade will carry you all the way through. Yeah.
But like besides that, like the bean belt would be useful, right? For like when I get the superior Gollux one at some point.
That also means that your current belt is in the very same situation as your earring, not in the same way because you don't. Not in the same situation, but Star Force wise could be in the same situation because you can freely go to 17 on the belt because it transfer hammers into superior anyway, right?
Yeah.
There's some other pieces that you wouldn't go to 17 for because they're going to get hard replaced, and then have no purpose afterwards. So it's better to just keep 12. The intervals for Star Force are really just like 10, 12, 17, and then 19, 21, 22, basically. Because if you're not going to go to 17, you don't really have to go past 12 at all.
Yeah, okay.
The CRA pieces, I want to make sure with the CRA pieces, I wouldn't like open them all up too early, because you'll get to the situation where you like fill up your inventory like rather quickly, and you want to make sure that you keep enough space for stuff that's relevant there. So I would keep the pieces until there's like a Star Force event, and then you can open them all up and see what you're doing.
Yeah, I did this because I got them all at in a day of each other, all the emblems. So I opened them up to see like which had like the best flame.
I see. Okay, yeah. Then
then I chose from there the best one to upgrade.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea for sure. All the extra weapons, the Sweetwater weapons, you can get rid of.
Yeah, because I was thinking of upgrading them, but like after today, that's a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gonna be a big waste.
If you really needed the damage, and this is one of the few sources to get it, it's probably a decent source. But with how good your WSE is in general and your other stuff all coming together, and how big your Legion already is, I'm fully convinced you can definitely CRA like this, and it's not necessary. And then you can just save that money, right? Like sideways upgrade again. You can skip that sideways upgrade, save the money instead, and then go harder on the Fafnir once you get it, and then make a bigger jump with that.
Yeah. And the Zakum cape can be used for Abso cape, right?
Yep, exactly.
So that
Star
would
Force
also be worth.
Yep. Keep backups for. And Star Force up to 15 as well, once you have enough backups, right? 30% off. The potential's already at Unique, so that's, like, ideally, again, you would just keep it up to Epic, because it'll go down. But, Unique is also like 100% epic potential scroll, right? So no need to work on a flame, but just like something that eventually you can work on a Star Force. But again, priority now is get the drop and Meso gear in order, right?
Yeah.
Then when a 30% off comes around, you can look at the fodder that you have, where you have backups, and try to send it up. I mean, even if you don't have backups, you can try to send it up to 15 if you're not equipping it actively, right? If you're actively equipping it, make sure you have backups so that you don't just destroy your piece that you're using.
Yeah. But how many, like, for my rings then, right? Because I have one with Meso drop already, and like the goal is now then is like to get like more lines on that, like on like more drop gear.
Yeah.
And Meso drop.
To be like one line a little fine? Bit, to be a little bit pedantic, so Meso drop is not a thing. Meso drop is Meso drop is technically a thing, but only in lines on familiars. Because on familiars, it's split between Meso drop rate and item drop rate. And in all the other sources of drop rate, it's combined. Item drop rate is both. So it's an important distinction to know. And then Meso obtain is how much is in the bag, and then Meso drop rate is what is the chance to get a bag. And it's important to not get those confused, because it is kind of confusing how it's named and labeled and everything. Nexon did a really good job there. So it's important to clarify the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But is like one line good enough, or I mean, for now I guess it is, because like I don't have, like, I can gain way more out of getting it on the other ring, for example, right? Because like that has none. But like, what would be the aim? Would it be one, or like one line of Meso obtained, or like maybe a line of Meso obtained and drop rate, or?
Ideal. So the ideal is that you have like one piece with 3 lines of Meso obtain, and then another equip with 2 lines and 1 line of drop rate, right? Yeah. And then in total, all of it stacks up to 5 lines of Meso can count, and up to 10 lines of drop rate can count. So the ideal set of accessories. So that's all of your rings, your pendants, your eye, your face, and your earring. Those 9 equips. Those can get lines of drop and Meso. So the ideal would be to have 5 lines of Meso, 10 lines of drop, and then whatever is left out of those 9, 3, 27, 15, 12 lines, that all of those are like prime line stat, right? That would be like the ideal. Now, how much would that cost? Probably quadrillions, so that we're not going to be doing that. So the second best option, quote unquote, like eventually in endgame you will have people who have that. Well, not with the stat, but we'll have like 5 line Meso, 10 line drop in like a set. And that'll be what they have eventually. But what will happen is you will get to that organically as you get rid of accessories. As accessories get upgraded and replaced with stronger ones, you'll be left with legendary accessories that have no purpose anymore. And that's the perfect time that you can start just re-rolling their potential and get extra drop rate. And then start supplementing. When you're bossing, for example, you don't want the Meso obtain at all. So you can take out the Meso pieces and then replace them with extra drop pieces and get more drop rate on those boxes or when you're killing the boss. So that'll happen in the future. So the short term is 5 lines of Meso obtain, 4 lines of drop rate. That's the main goal. If the pieces also have some stat, like 6%, 9%, maybe even 15% if you get lucky, that's great, but that's not the initial goal. The initial goal is just to get the Meso and the drop rate online. You don't really need the damage from the accessories, you need the utility. Now, if in the process of rolling, you get more than 4 item drop or more than 5 Meso in the beginning without getting double lines, right? So if you get Meso, Meso, Meso drop, or drop, drop, then you just add 1 to the drop rate line, right? Because the drop rate stacks up to 10 lines. Meso stays at 5, so that's the goal. That's the main goal, to get 5 there. So if you do get something with double drop, you go for 5 Meso, 5 drop, or 5 Meso, 6 drop, etc. If you end up with more than 5 Meso or more than 4 drop without double lines, before you're like done fixing the gear, then you just look for whatever piece you have that has extra, too many Meso or too many drop, and that does not have any extra stat. And then that way, in re-rolling like that, so you get to the total of 5 and 4, hopefully half or a little bit more than half of the pieces also have some dex on it, so that the total dex between the pieces is at least like at least like 30%, but ideally like somewhere like 40-45% of dex. Because in the same way that you kind of see your potential on your weapon and your secondary and your emblem kind of as one blob of, this is where I need damage, right? You need a balance there between IED, between boss, and between attack, and then maybe some extra stat. In the same way, you see all of your accessories as one blob as well. Like, I need 5 Meso, 4 drop, and then as much stat as possible, basically.
Yeah.
So all the details, you know, of like drop and mezzo and stacking and familiars, that's all, you can all find that under !drop rate. But basically what is written here, like that's the main thing that you're seeking. And so that's going to be your main goal to achieve that on your character. That combined with your inner ability, and once you start using more the Legion coupons with the Legion wealth and everything, plus once you get into wealth acquisition, like the WAPs and the EOPs and all that stuff, then you'll start seeing some really nice rates, and then you'll have the backups to put that money to work, and then you'll start making those big jumps, those big Star Force gains, and you can see some significant improvement in doing the higher level bosses.
Yeah, you talked about WAPs, right? So I made a beast tamer at some point, and I found, like, I logged in recently on it, and I found like 5 WAPs on it. Is it worth to keep those like saved up until I have some more meso obtained gear?
Yeah, I would, because the WAPs are nice and are weird in the fact that they say that they are additive, but they are, or all the other sources are additive, but the WAPs are actually multiplicative. So it'll have higher efficiency if you use it on more sources that you have in total.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you can also create more WAPs. That's actually what I'm trying to do here during the session here. So I'm trying to talk to a character here, and then they give you these bags. And then you open these bags, and then, you know, most of them have nothing in it. But there's one thing that we really want, and that's the juniper berry seed oil. So if you ever get those, make sure you save all of them up.
Yeah, I've been doing it already.
You're doing that? Okay, yeah. Because they are definitely the bottleneck to... Well, it's an endgame, basically.
Yeah, because they are pretty important, I guess.
Yeah, you need 10 per craft, and that gives you 3 potions that last 2 hours each. Which seems like you'll have enough forever, but... if you actually train and you actually use your totems, you run out pretty quickly.
Yeah, like 1 potion is 1 totem, right? So.
Yep. Yeah, that synergizes nicely. That's not a coincidence, of course. Oh, and I just got 0 out of 40. Okay. Yeah, so some subjects... yeah, if you want to catch up, so for Transfer Hammer, I have the video on that. If you want to make sure that that's all clear, and then for Flames, talks about, you know, the flame score and how high to aim, and it all links it back as well to the progression grid, right? To like, what kind of stats are you looking for, and where can you look for the flame score? How can you calculate the flame score in the beginning, just to kind of like hold your hand through all of that, and then, like I said, once you've done that a little bit, you'll just look at an item and be like, oh, that's this flame score, that's good enough. Oh, this one is shitty, I need to upgrade. Oh, this one doesn't even have flame advantage, I'm not going to touch it, right? And you can see the difference of like what kind of goal do we have for non-advantage versus advantage. Like late game, like level 270, if you have like over 40 flame score on like a superior earring or something, that's totally fine. But if you have CRA that's like under 100, that's a little bit, there's more room for growth there, right? But that's like double the flame score for an item of the same level. So you see the standards are just completely different.
Yeah. Wait, by the way, I got like one question, because I looked at it, like I use that like a lot to see how far I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty handy. With you say in there you have the crit rate for a character.
Mm-hmm.
And from 60 to 100, is that just base? With your like base plus gear, or like what, or just total?
100% uptime. 100% uptime. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like Legion and stuff like in there as well.
Yeah. So for crit, you can check !crit in the chat, and there I have like lists of what sources are and where you can look for crit. So you have crit rate sources. And you can basically just see which ones that you might not be using yet, and some of them are pretty, you know, there's like a base 5%, I guess that should be number 1 but I don't know why that one's number 13, but you can always use this as well as a check. This was mostly useful in the past, where you couldn't just open up your stat window and like click your crit and then like see where it was coming from, but now, or hover over it. Now you can hover over the crit and you can really see where it's coming from to get a better idea of like, okay, where am I at? But example for my arc, if I want to have 100% crit uptime at all times, I really only just need 70, because decent sharp eyes, you know, like if I haven't pressed the button, that's a 10%, and I have a built-in spell bullet for the flame, what it's called, Scarlet, yeah, Scarlet drive. If that hits a target, that I can do all the time. That gets me an extra 20%. So boom, now I'm at 100% uptime of 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, nothing else on your equips, no other piece. But yeah, that's the main goal, right? If you look at a piece now that you can tell, like, okay, this one is good for now, this one needs a lot of work, this one is going to get replaced soon, and if so, with what? And this one is not going to get replaced, so I can upgrade it, right? And then in all terms of Star Force and potential, and then Flames is basically, you know, once you're done with Star Force and potential, then you can think about Flames. Flames is really only very important, like, early on to make sure you don't have the worst of Flames in the world, so that you get some stats out of all of them. But it's in the same way that you look at your potential, like, oh, make sure you roll everything to 3% because all the little bits add up together, right? Yeah. But I would only really worry about Flames on a weapon and on things that you're going to transpose. Those are like the important stuff. And then once that's taken care of, you know, Flames are really not that important until you get like Abzu gear and until you get Arcane gear. And then pitch boss gear, you know, but that's like really far away. So yeah, you already have some good legendary pieces. So I would start like re-rolling those one at a time, get your drop in Mezzo, and then slowly work towards the 5/4. And then the rings are pretty close, right? You can do the event ring cubes on the Awake ring, and then maybe the Silver Blossom. Then you already have, what is it, 5 legendaries? That's already pretty close. And then your like B mark is pretty close. And the Deocidus earrings. So what can happen is that you try to roll for drop mezzo and you end up with like 27 decks or like 30 decks. Yeah, at that point you basically just pause that and try to get another item, I guess. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
See it as better stats for the other item you're not rolling at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just swap them around. But like, just focus like mainly on like getting the drop and leveling up a bit.
Yeah, leveling will come automatically, right? If you're really doing your dailies, you're getting your symbols, and you're doing your monster park, then the levels they come. Yep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm just like trying to get to 235 so I can do all the dailies at least.
Yeah, and the totems will feel more rewarding, I think, as well. Once your drop in Mezzo gear goes up, you'll start seeing way more gains, and that'll be a nice motivator to, you know, to keep training, keep leveling as well. And it's not that big of a project. You'll get there pretty quickly, and then you'll just, you know, start raining in start swimming on all the money.
Yeah, but like first I need to buy that 2 bill heart.
Yeah.
Before I can,
well, I mean, you have until the early September, so you can also choose to go for the drop rate and stuff first, and then go back. Because if you're doing Ursus, Maple Tour, and you're doing Totem here and there, you can get 2 bill pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the faster you get the Mezzo and drop gear, the faster you earn the money back, right?
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Because, yeah, if you buy the heart, you'd still have to invest like a bill into it as well, at least probably before it becomes like a substantial gain, so...
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, for the bosses specifically, I guess it's just practice, right? Just get better.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm a bit strong. I think for the bosses that I'm gonna be doing, at least for the 3 doors of CRA that I did. But yeah, the main problem was that I never did them before, and I'm doing it solo, so
Everything is new and everything's on you. For some bosses though, solo is good in the beginning because you have full control over where the boss moves and who the boss is targeting all the time, right? Sometimes going with a party can be a little bit yikes, especially if you're used to soloing, because the boss can start becoming unpredictable. So like targeting weird things or like doing clown with multiple people is sometimes very annoying because like Red will teleport, you don't know where he's gonna go. People are jumping all over the place. You get slapped out of nowhere. Yeah. Sometimes he gets desynced. Like he'll disappear and then he won't show up at all. And then he'll slap somewhere, disappear, and immediately slap somewhere else. And he'll do like 2 attacks in a row. Yeah, it can get really interesting sometimes.
But do you think like my goals are reasonable? Because I will be honest, at the moment I don't have much going on, so I play like 6 to 8 hours, maybe more a day.
Oh Jesus. Okay, I don't know if that's healthy.
Well, I mean, I've been doing that for 2 months now.
Oh boy. Yeah, you start feeling it.
No, I mean,
Still enjoying
I
it.
still go out partying in the weekends. So
Okay, that's good. That's good.
It's like it's not like consuming my whole life. It's
Okay,
just that
good.
just morning, afternoon. It's just let's play some Maple.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, no, I think that's very doable. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure like how long it, because like this is my main again, and I've never really done anything. I got like 2 months ago, so I'm not sure like how fast people really progress through this game, and if my goals or what I'm thinking I want to do is like reasonable in amount of time. Because like you get demotivated if you think like, oh, I'm gonna go to this boss, and it takes like you think like it's gonna take 2 months and it's like 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually don't really put a time frame on things like that. If you're playing 6 to 8 hours a day, you can, a month, you can get a lot more done in a month than someone who plays like 1 hour a day and then a little bit more on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if short term means for you like in the next 2 weeks, medium means in like 2 to 3 months or something.
Yeah,
like
something along those lines.
8K Legion might be a bit steep for that because that is a lot of work. When you're at 6, it might feel like 8 is pretty close. Again, it's going to be brought a little bit closer, but you're mostly going to need a whole account of level 200s. And that's a little tricky to do because you can't scale up quite as well from where you are now to 200 by like throwing totems at it, because if you do that, you'd have no totems left for your main character. So you're going to have to be sharing. So the scaling there is maybe not as strong as you think. You're mostly going to be dependent on levels with like extreme growth potions and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like events that give it away, the daily login.
Like the infinity pool and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll probably get the, like, reaching level 250 on your main, doing Lotus and Damien, probably even doing Lucid, probably before 8K Legion. You'll probably be, like, around early 7K at that point. Like 7.2, right. 7.3, something like that. But it can be, like, one of your medium-term goals, but it'll probably be longer. And you'll definitely do that before, you get into... like, if you get to 8K by the time you get to doing, like, Hard Lucid and Hard Will, that's probably still totally fine. You'll probably get it around, like, when you're moving into, like, Tenebris and you're, like, 255 plus, like, going towards 260 and trying to do, like, Ferris Hill and that kind of thing. But, yeah, other than that, seems reasonable, seems doable. And you're keeping track of the progression grid, right? So you know where you're at in terms of which things you can push a little bit harder on and which things are already good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoy Legion, then, push a little bit harder on that, and then you'll have a benefit that you don't have to work as hard on all the other things, because the Legion will carry you through.
Yeah, the most important part is about having fun while you play, of course, right? So.
Yeah, because if Legion is fun for you, some people just hate having to play other characters to get stronger in their main. They just despise that, which is fine, but then you have to push way harder on all of the stuff in your main character to keep up with everyone. And if you like playing a lot of other characters and you want to build a huge Legion, then you have to invest way less. Plus, it's a good leg up to scaling up into boss mules, because all of those characters are going to start way stronger if you have a big Legion. So you have to invest way less into them, and you can start capitalizing on their gains and on the bossing way faster, especially if you've already learned to do the bosses solo on another character, because that means you can learn them way faster on a new character.
Yeah, you know what to look out for with those bosses, so it's not you're reliant on other people to help you.
Yeah, which is, again, I think in some ways a little bit negative again, because we're all just like playing next to each other instead of with each other. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I guess like an MMO, but then not playing with other people.
Yeah, for people who are very busy, or they're in like Australia or something in a time zone that doesn't have too many people, it's totally understandable, of course.
Yeah, of course I'm like thinking of like doing party stuff for later on, because like it just seems more plausible. Kill them then, but for now I think like it's just good to learn to deal with boss mechanics, especially on your first character, I would say, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I have the if you check the dailies command, if you don't know if you've seen that one, that's why I have the column there with like the boss experience, to see like which which monsters bossing experience I think is good to. Basically, this is one of the ones that I would advise that you that you play, and this is the ones where you can skip it or get carried. Like I don't give a fuck because it's just like a very gimmicky, or it's just like once you pass it one time you're good, and the other ones are like, if you learn this, it'll give you a leg up for the next boss, and then for the next and the next, and you don't end up in a situation where you have like 25 boss mechanics that are all new that you have to learn simultaneously, but it's more like, oh, these 5 I've already done, I've already mastered, boom. These 5 are very similar to these other ones, I can take those out of the way, and now you just have, well, I mean, 25 is a lot, but like now you only have 15, quote-unquote, that you need to deal with. That makes the whole boss fight way quicker to learn, because you can prioritize which things are actually high danger and which ones are low danger. Okay, so I think we're good on everything for now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there's anything that pops up that you still wanted to ask and that comes up, after the session, just hit me up on Discord, or just ask in the chat, and you know where to find me.
Yeah.
You've already been here, so you know where I am. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I guess I wish you best of luck. Hopefully all the upgrades are cheap, and hopefully we get some new events soon that can facilitate, and that it can be timed properly to give you your step. Hopefully a 30% off soon, and then by that time you can start sending some stuff up to 15, and then you can be ready for the next 5, 10, 15 to start slamming to 17.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'll be hit 20k soon.
Yeah, oh yeah, true. Yeah, we're very close. We're like 50 away. Let's see, 57 followers away. Ooh, very soon. Yeah, thank you. And you're very welcome. And I'll see you around in chat and maybe in game.
Yeah. Goodbye then.
All right. Yeah. Goodbye. Have a good one. All right. Cool. Another coaching session successful. 56 followers away. Yeah, we're getting really close to 20,000 followers on Twitch. So if you guys want to be part of the first 20K, get over there quickly. 545 Sauce and Snappy is Kate. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for getting in before 20K. Good job. Thank you. I will thank you guys for watching. And if you guys want one of these coaching sessions, make sure you check the description of the video on how you can get one of these sessions. There's 3 ways. One is a direct donation based on what kind of session you want and when you want it, different prices. The second one is you can request it with channel points if you watch my Twitch stream and if you're a subscriber there. It's very cheap to do that way. Or there's a free way, and that's by leaving a comment with your Discord name on the YouTube video saying that you would like to win and that you really enjoyed the video and that it's so informational that your brain just created folds and is expanded exponentially. I draw 2 winners from all of the comment sections from all of the videos that I do, from all the coaching videos that I do at the end of the month, and then those 2 lucky people will get a free session with me. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you leave a comment and do all of that good stuff. Other than that, if you need any of the resources, these are all freely available through my chat on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Scardor. You can go in there, use !commands that has all of the commands. You just simply put an exclamation mark, whatever you're looking for, and boom, it'll show up. And the bot is programmed with about 200 commands with information for you that you might need. If something is not there, something is outdated, you can also request with the channel points on the stream. If you watch the stream, you can request extra commands or an update to a command, and then we can make sure that those are just done better than they already are. Other than that, I thank you guys for watching over on YouTube. We are almost reaching 10,000 subscribers there, so that's like half of Twitch already almost, which is also really cool. So thank you for everyone who's subscribing over on YouTube as well. Appreciate all the support. And we're currently still working on the website, so hopefully I can show you guys something on that soon. I will be going away for about a week on vacation for the first time in about 6 years since I started streaming, basically. So we'll be gone for a little bit at the end of the week, so like over the weekend and everything. But I'll still be uploading videos, and I'll be uploading part 2 of the balance patch in KMS soon as well. So keep your eye out for that. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you either on the next YouTube video or live on Twitch. Scardor on Twitch. All right.